Softball edition of the Crosstown Showdown as the Parkersburg South Lady Patriots hosted the Parkersburg Lady Big Reds. Out to Don Godby Fields, where PHS looked to start a winning streak, while South hoped to continue a winning streak. Moving ahead to the bottom of the third, Allie Markham hits a grounder to JoJo Wilson. Her throw to home is low, and Annie Shelton scores from third base. South leads at 1-0. Later in the inning, now 3-0, Shy Hayes hits a fly ball into left field. Left fielder is under it to make the catch, but Markham tags up. She'll score from third to make it 4-0. Skipping to the fifth, Bryn Fry crushes this ball into deep right for a base hit. That's all the way to the wall. Danica Kaufman comes around third, and she will score. PHS on the board at 4-1 after the RBI triple from Fry. Bottom of the inning, South responds with Briley Hatcher hitting a fly ball into right field. Addie Cameron can't make the catch, so that allows Peyton Mackey and Shy Hayes to score. Now 6-1 Lady Patriots as Hatcher is in second. Later on, Annie Shelton with a line drive into left, and again, PHS cannot make the play. Hatcher will score from third. Parkersburg South pulls away for the 9-1 victory over its rival Parkersburg. Over in Ohio, we had more rivalry matchups as both the Fort Fry baseball and softball teams traveled across the river to take on the Waterford Wildcats. Starting with baseball, it's the first matchup between these two rivals this year. Beginning in the bottom of the fourth, Avery Pottmeyer gets things started for the Wildcats with a lead-off single. They lead it 3-1. That would lead to this clutch two-out hit. Xavier Heiss drops one into shallow center field. Cadets can't snag it, so Waterford puts another run on the board. Wildcats not done yet. Braun Doak hits one down the right field line. Pottmeyer comes across to score, but Heiss is going to be thrown out at the plate as Waterford getting a little greedy here. Before Fry looking to rally, Chatham Corson grounds one through the left side. That'll bring 2 runs home, and the Cadets are only down 5-3 now. Waterford looking to get out of the inning, but Caden Henniger's grounder gets mishandled in the infield, so another run scores, and Henniger is on first. Top of the 6th now. Colton Jones is on in relief of Corbin Stark, and he gets the big strikeout to shut down the Cadets offense. Waterford goes on to get the win at home 8-4. To the softball field, where the Lady Cadets are taking on the Lady Cats. First inning, Ella Dowler smokes an RBI single right back up the middle. That ricochets off Maggie Ball when she would be okay, though. Fort Fry leads 2-0. To the home half, Avery Smithberger lines one into the outfield for a single. Waterford, though, unable to put any runs on the board. Faith Treadway up with nobody on. She'll ground one just past the shortstop and reach first, setting up a big inning for the Cadets. Runners on second and third. Emmy Dusky hits a ground ball that is mishandled at short, allowing a run to cross. Maggie Baldwin, though, able to stop the bleeding for a little bit with a strikeout, looking on the off speed. But that didn't stop Fort Fry from scoring more. Dowler hits one to the right side to score another run, and she would reach first on an error. More Lady Cadet offense. Taylor Hendershot rips one through the 5-hole to bring home 2 more runs, and she slides into second with a double. Fort Fry wins game 2 of the rivalry 14-0. In football,